Oh, this works perfect for me. Okay.
I don't know if you can all hear me, but we don't have any sound on our end. Now I can hear you.
Okay,
You can
very
hear us now?
Yep.
Okay.
So will that be like that in the recording too, then? We should start back to commissioner comments if we,
Yes, so no one heard anything you said prior to this right now.
okay. Do you mind if we back up?
Go ahead.
Okay, so commissioner comments, I just wanted to remind all of our small businesses in Atchison County that this Friday, July 30th is the deadline to apply for the CDBG funding. So definitely get your applications in. The information's on our website. If you have any questions, feel free to call any of the commissioners or Michelle at the county clerk's office. And then also I wanted to remind everyone about the Commercial Street celebration this Friday also. If you haven't RSVP'd, you can do that through the Atchison Area Chamber of Commerce. That celebration is to celebrate Commercial Street opening up. So that should be fun. There's a lot of activities and band and kids activities planned. So definitely want to join in it if you don't have plans.
Okay. And also for those that couldn't hear us, after that, we approved a 2019 Gravely Pro Turn 400 mower for solid waste department, an amount of $9,900. That was approved 2-0.
I didn't get none of that. Who made that?
I made the motion.
And I seconded 2-0. Your sound was off. Wes, you're at. Sealed bid opening.
You're muted, Wes.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's one of those days apparently. Okay, so we have a sealed bid opening for the 911 address sign project. We sent out, we posted on a county website and also sent out invitations to bid. I don't know how many we received. Kaylee, do you have those?
I only have one.
Okay, we do have one bid.
One.
Okay, and so that's the address of all the address signs for all the rural, which includes not in any of our first class or third class cities throughout the whole county. It's around 2,080 signs that we will be having installed. And we sent the application process out in 2019 for people if they wanted to have it on their mailbox or on a post next to their driveway.
I don't know if I could open yet. I'll
Yeah.
wait. This bid is from traffic management for a total bid of $35,527.53. So 35527.53.
Okay, that is very close to the bid that we had them do in 2020 before we put this project on hold. And we did also add 56 signs from then till now of people that received new addresses. Does it split it out or is it just one total price?
It says installed on post signs. It says 1,205 LSM at a unit price of 21.28 for a total of $25,636.38. Attached to mailbox is 821 each at $11.50. Sorry, I have to multitask. For $9,441.50. And then there's a stray list of 34 each at $13.23 for $449.65. And the price includes the labor and hardware. It states that.
Okay. Did they say about being able to meet the the completion date for the state highways?
It said this includes state highways being completed by December 31st, 2021. Due to timing, the other areas could run into spring of 2022. And then in parentheses, it says April.
Okay, so and the reason that is our state permit expires 12/31 of this year for all the addresses that we will be placing on the state right of ways. And so I told them that we wanted those definitely completed by then, and then we could allow a later timing if it would be a squeeze for them to get it done for the county roads and township roads.
And then Wes, it also states if bonding is needed, add 3%. We do not supply flagger personnel. Now you may have it.
Mr. Henderson, do we require bonding on this?
No.
I didn't think so. Just want to make sure.
I was just letting you know what it said.
Okay. From what you've told me, that sounds like very similar to the bid that we had them do in 2020, and I would suggest the commission move forward with that if they're comfortable.
Okay, you have no other questions about this bid?
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the bid to traffic management and in the amount of $35,527.53?
So moved.
And I will second. Any other discussion?
I would just say thank you for putting this RFP out. It's been on the minds of many constituents in Atchison County that signed up for these. It's going to help our EMS find all of our rural residents, and having that deadline of the state highway, but also April of 2022. That's a good timeline in my estimation to get that many out. So thank you.
Yeah, on the speaker.
Okay, Jack, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay,
There's a need for rural broadband.
Yes, Jack, we are, we've got a motion and a second on the traffic management for $35,527.53 for the 911 signs. So I was going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 3-0. Should I put that in the folder then?
Kaylee, since I'm not up there, is there any way you could grab a PO form and have them sign that to go with that invoice?
Counselor Henderson is my.
Or they can just sign the quote and that would be sufficient.
Whatever you prefer. We can create a PO and have them sign it, not a problem.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Atchison County Extension.
Start off, but I'm really going to turn it over to the board officers. Kemp Sims here, but last time we were here 2 weeks ago, we had the discussion about the extension budget getting cut and reduced and extension in Atchison County becoming a one agent program. And with that concern, the board met, has discussion, and it's coming and on the agenda today, comes forth to share concerns and not scripted by who wants to speak or whatever, but I mean, yes, you're in control. So if you need clarification, let that be known, but I'll probably make my introductions first. On Manhattan Extension, we have representation from Chris Onstead. He would touch extension all across the state of Kansas. Previously was our area director. So appreciate Chris being here, and he would have clarifications if you have that on districting or extension and financing that thing. But with that said, I'm going to let Kent Sims, our vice chairman, kind of go ahead and have lead, and then we will see where that leads.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to appear before you. We found a lot of interest and concern out there, and I'm glad you're willing to listen to us. The wrong thing, put my nose away. Starts to look like a blur. Okay, I'm glad you're here too, Chris. That's been done. We have so many people here to express support for extension programs and services and their staff. I'm not going to talk just about that for the moment. I do want you to know that we have an extension. That's Chris. Atchison County's financial contribution to extension is one of the lowest in the state. We have only 8 counties in Kansas that have one agent. They range in population from 1,200 to neighboring Brown County with 9,500. It's only about half of our population in Atchison County. And the budgets more or less mirror that on the spreadsheet that you guys got in the first submission of budget. If you have more questions about that, I have some copies, and Ray May and Chris probably knows about it. So, and we have nearly double the population of Brown County. And positions for 2 agents are recommended for counties this size to provide programs such as 4-H, family and community and consumer education, early childhood, family support services, ag support services, and community program support. Proposed cut we've heard about informally. I don't think we've had anything written on that yet, but we've heard it. We've heard a figure verbally that is low enough that wouldn't even properly support a one agent county. And I guess I'm not going to mention that till we've not mentioned that figure till we've heard it, but heard it officially. Commissioner Quinn has made our board aware of several complaints she received, and she solicited input via Facebook for Atchison County Extension, on Atchison County Extension rather. We know she's received some positive comments also. Hope we can all see, commissioners and all of us alike, one more time, just like on a national scale, how destructive and negative input from social media can be with zero accountability. Anybody can say anything they want. I think largely we bumped into kind of a vendetta. It looked like, it sounded like, rather, I haven't seen them. It sounded like most of these complaints could have been written from the same talking point list. The relationship between Atchison County Extension and Atchison County Fair Board's experienced varying degrees of satisfaction and stress over the years. I think it would be fair to say, but I do know that last summer brought lots of stress over KSU's and ultimately Atchison County's Extension's position that a county fair must be virtual rather than in person. It kind of culminated in a planning meeting last year before the fair, and many people felt that it should be a fair as usual, and Extension said it can't be after we revised the liability by K.S.A. that we would have if we hosted that. And it turned into a spreader event. We don't know anything about what liability occurred, but we did have the livestock sale as usual, and it did result in one of Atchison's first spreader events of COVID. And I don't know what else to say. I just can't resist mentioning one other point, and one of the verbal complaints that was relayed to us by Commissioner Quinn. Heard something about a hidden bank account for grant funds. I just want to say that accusation occurred prior to 2011. And it's still floating around. It was completely debunked at the time. And complaints or a cease and desist were requested, and data was shared with the complainer, whoever. And nothing was found amiss. It was exactly according to the instructions given by Kansas State at the time. And I think they have since been changed, but this is 11 years later, 10, 11 years later. We're still carrying this grudge and bringing it up and talking about it. It's unfortunate the way that social media and personalities, I guess, can work. At any rate, our board's only received complaints in the last few days, and so far only verbally by Commissioner Quinn. We will deal with any and all complaints received timely by proper channels and in consideration of HR regulations and legal guidelines. It's important to separate the provision of programs from staff performance issues. Our board will do that. We would ask the commissioners not to try to force personnel changes by strangling 4-H, FCE, early childhood family support program, ag support, community support, and yes, districting with severe budget cuts. We would encourage commissioners to consider advice from sources who are well educated in the services available through Extension. Move forward with continued services. Our board reviews best avenues of service to Atchison County in accordance with statutory guidelines. And I'll just quit and see what else anybody else would like to say.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and follow up on that. I think it was very well stated. I'm Larry Lentner. I've been on the board for the last 3.5 years. I was elected to the board in October this past year in the public election, as we all are. And I represent the agricultural and natural resources area, along with several other PDCs. I'm tremendously concerned about the actions that I'm hearing. I looked at the video of the last meeting. I wasn't able to make that meeting. But in the end, there was comments made to some degree that though we're trying to improve extension service. I agree, we are too. We love to. In fact, anytime that anybody has a concern or a complaint, we as the board would like to hear about it because we are responsible and we will listen. And if there's needed action to take place, we will take that action. But I have a hard time understanding how we're going to improve on extension services for Atchison County by possibly looking at a one agent county. The one agent counties that are referred to absolutely are correct, and they do a great job. Frankly, if you look at the population of all 8 of those counties, they average out 2,981 people on average. That's 18.4% of the Atchison County population of 16,193. However, when you look at the way they fund themselves, their appropriations are actually based on the projection of $70,000. Their projection or their funding is 65% above that of what Atchison is at 107,000 across the board. And then their operating expenses that they fund their operations with are 21%. Ours is 21% of their average, 23,867. So what we're saying is that these small counties, and there's nothing wrong with it, they're just very lightly populated. But we have a very diverse population here. We have all these different programs that we offer in these different categories of community development. 4-H is one of them, but not the only one. Agriculture and the family. Well, we've got some people here for today. They'll speak later about this from the FCE group, and they rely heavily on Diane and Ray to help them with the programming that comes from Atchison to disseminate information to a wide range of people. And we've had some very successful programs, and I think my wife Carol alluded to one of those a few years ago, which we're very proud of. My major concern as a board member here is I'm all for helping to improve anything that goes on here in Atchison County. That's my home. But I'm all for districting and have been for a number of years. I tried districting a few years ago. But when you look at the issue with districting, we don't look too attractive to our neighbors. And we have tried and tried, and we've been returned back each time. And districting, if you look at the way the districts are set up, it's really truly the answer for everybody in the state. And I think the entire state needs to go that way. But when we drop our budget, the approach that we're hearing, we're going to be even less attractive to anyone. And districting will be totally out of the picture as far as I'm concerned. You might want to address that. But that's going to be the case because I've been involved with this for some time. So, you know, it's really somewhat embarrassing to think that we are 70th in the operational funding per agent. And there's only 70 units in the state. That includes the districts. So we're last when it comes into how we're funding all these services and programming that we want to service. We can't do it with one agent. I don't care how good that agent is. It takes some funding to do that. And we're willing to work out something to make this work, including we want to hear from those people who seem to have some issues, but they don't seem to feel like they need to come to the board that can make some issues here resolved and work with us. Come on, let's talk about it. And also tell your friends and neighbors, we'd love to have more people run for these positions on this board, because when it comes around to that kind of time, people disappear. So let's all get behind extension and all the services that this extension offers, and others can speak to that as well. And let's make this something that is progressive and can truly make extension better than what it is right now. But I cannot see, just like someone said today, just moving to Atchison is not going to improve. I don't disagree with that, But I also don't agree with just cutting our budget to the degree that talking about is going to help at one bit either. So we've got some talking to do, I think. And we've got to do something to really be careful before we will destroy something that Atchison County and its citizens, and that's who we really need to focus on, is the services we bring to the citizens that they rely on for us. And we can't do it down the road we're heading to. So I appreciate your time and your interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Litton.
I'm Carol Lichtner, the other half, and I'm a member of FCE, Family and Community Education. We come before the commission every fall to have our National FCE Week proclamation signed, and we appreciate. Of course, we didn't get to come last year for COVID. We appreciate you acknowledging that we do celebrate family and community as a nation, not just Kansas. I look at the pictures up here, the founding fathers of the commissioners and K-State, but have the same pictures. K-State is a state grant college that we are very proud of. All the early states in the United States were granted by the federal government to have state colleges. K-State does a wonderful job writing lessons for the FCE groups in Kansas, nationwide actually. Each college within that state coordinates with their extension through their state college, and some are shared nationwide by K-State and other county or state colleges. One that Larry alluded to was a few years ago, one of the lessons was human trafficking. Slavery still exists. So we, as the Atchison County FCE, which is 34 members of 2 units, we organized with Topeka Rescue Mission Director. Dr. Epley agreed to be our moderator at the presentation that was held at Benedictine College. We sent personal invitations to all the commissioners at that time of the county. I don't know if any attended. Chief Wilson came from the police department. We had over 150 citizens that came to hear about human trafficking. That's just one example of the outreach that Diane and Ray give us guidance on who to contact. Diane suggested that we call the Attorney General's office. They sent a representative to come and speak. Dr. Epley shared state bills at that time that they were discussing and hopefully passing to enforce, give more funding to human trafficking, ending that. And Kansas is one of the leading states in the United States that's addressing this problem. I wore my Walk Kansas t-shirt today because I have several colors of these. Every color. And Diane and Ray are instrumental in promoting this. Probably more, I mean, there are teams that are younger people, but for those of us that are over 60, they do a great job providing us with different resources. Those that are approaching going on Medicare, they can speak with Diane on guidance for that. Arthritis, we've shared different FCE lessons that we received with the county. We had a booth 2 years ago at the health fair that the hospital organizes, and that was on osteoporosis. We've had continuing ongoing research from K-State on Alzheimer's, and hopefully that's going to be a thing that will end in our children's life. It's a major disease. So I just would plead with you that you possibly consider any cuts this year in the budget for another year. Give the board time to meet with the public members that are disputing why, you know, the reasons that they see they can get along with one agent. But frankly, I just don't see how one agent is going to keep up with everything. And I think you will hire a young person out of college, but this is going to be a stepping stone for them in their career. They're not going to stay here. They're not going to be dedicated to Atchison County as written by him. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Anyone else?
My name is Kathy Higley, and I'm the secretary for the Extension Board right now. I have over 30 years of experience working in human resources, and I can tell you that cutting a staff member is always means cutting services. And most often it's going to be an extreme cut to those services. That is something we would look at with this type of a cut when we look at the programs that we can offer to all of the residents in our county. There's a lot of times that there's nutrition information and education that is provided by Diane, lots of agricultural learning that is happening for our agriculturally based county as well. Human resource issues, staffing issues are something that are very difficult to handle sometimes. And if you've received complaints, then you have to look into those complaints and see what the real basis of those complaints are, and then make the proper corrections to things that you may need to make going forward. Simply cutting our budget is not going to be affecting just staffing. It is definitely going to affect the programs. I would also speak to things like the 4-H programs that are backed through our extension programs throughout the state. I was in 4-H for very many years, all through my growing up years. I'm currently judging in a lot of other counties. I've seen that happen. Some of the things that are going on in other counties with this. I looked at what the operating budgets are for some of the other counties, and especially looking at those with only one agent. They are still operating at, most of them, from around 20 to as much as 37,000 for their operating budgets. And those are on those spreadsheets that you received earlier with the budget presentations. We are operating at like 9,800. So that means when you're not having enough funding to place into your programs, that means that maybe you're not getting as much exposure to your constituents as we might be able to if we were spending more like some of the other counties are. So I appreciate your listening to us today. I hope that you'll go back and look at some of those numbers and take those into consideration as well for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy.
I didn't sign in. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm John Epley, and I'm your district representative for 63, which is Donovan and didn't mean to run off Ray and Atchison counties. I'd like to speak to the cuts that are proposed and say I'm very much against it, because this is at a time when, if anything, we need to continue to provide more ongoing education for our county and for the area as far as health and health related topics that they work so hard on. I've worked with particularly Diane on several events and occasions and counseled her on some things and advised her some resources to follow through on as she does some of her presentations, which I think have been very good to outstanding, and trying to provide education in our county. I know our staffing. I know what it is relative to other counties in the state as a state representative. We're not overstaffed, and to go to one person would be, I think, an impossible job going forward with the amount of education that's provided. Now, therein lies the rub. I'm familiar with some of the political dynamics behind some of this, and sometimes people don't like to be educated on the facts of what we hear as it relates to the pandemic. People didn't want to hear that, and there were some groups that weren't happy about that we weren't able to handle things like we normally would last year. There was a lot of unknown about the pandemic, and some of the advice that we got from our extension agents wasn't maybe well received. But those persons that had that angst should have been more upset at the pandemic itself than at the education they received, because there was a lot we didn't know about this pandemic, and we know a lot more now with a lot more education, and we continue to evolve. And I really feel like these agents are trying to do the best they could in an impossible situation. And I think if there are issues with their performance or what they do, I'd like to understand it more, because I've never heard any blowback on any of the educational events that I've been very involved with with our county extension. And I think we need to realize that a big part of county extension through K-State is educating our populace and educating folks through 4-H and through those programs. And I just really think we're going the wrong direction if we cut those programs at this time. So appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Flynn.
Sir.
Now, my name is Chris Kirby. I served on USD 377 board, school board. I served on extension council as chair. Excuse me. And I was an auditor for 20 years. And one thing that brought all three of those aspects of my life together was listening to people develop a premise, but then do the total opposite and bring it to the conclusion of that. For example, people would say, we need to do what's best for our students. We need to do what's best for our young people. We need to do what's best for our county. But yet the action was, let's don't spend the money. Let's don't do that. It'll cause too much problem, too much work, or it might make somebody upset. And I think we're in the same situation here. We're overlooking the real function of the extension counseling purpose. And that is to give opportunity and direction to the people of Atchison County. I think that's what our extension agents are excellent at. I've met in my professional life and on the extension life, people throughout the state that are involved in 4-H. And just by chance, we would be discussing 4-H. Ray and Diane's name was always brought up in those discussions because they are known as good agents, effective agents throughout the state. On this issue of negative comments, that my whole association with the Extension Council, it seems like every year we have negative comments. And when I was chair of the Extension Council, it sounds like we had something very similar there. There was secret grant accounts, and there was even a secret personal fund account. You know, in my professional career, we were taught and we understood that there were some things you just can't handle yourself, and that's improper use of funds because it hinders investigation and possible future prosecution. So what we did, when I looked at my notes and we communicated with Mr. Henderson, that we would rather this be turned over to the sheriff's department because people had given us names and banks where all this was coming from. We said, let's turn this over and let the sheriff address it. Suddenly everything stopped. Nobody knew. I didn't know what was going on. And it sounds like it's the same thing here. It's a personal vendetta, if you will. So what I would ask is for Commissioner Quinn to present everything she has and the investigation and the review and the documentation and the follow-up.
Thank you.
Anyone else? The gentleman from K-State, did you want to
just making sure all the people in the community got to speak up too. But been with Extension for 26 years in 3 different organizations. People like this are why I'm still here. As they're part of the community, they see the value, they are standing up for it, they benefited from it, and they see the actual public value that Extension provides. Couple of things that just popped up in my mind, we talked about budgeting stuff. Every month, K-State actually provides auditing services to the local extension board. And so it's on the up and up. At the end of the year, we have to look for everything into. So, allegations that exist, such as came up 11 years ago, are always monitored. And so those are something that we have to be very auspicious of. And then I think about extension as a whole here in K-State. By state statutes, we are required to provide education in agriculture, medicinal sciences, development, even some like that. So you think about those areas, and the large encompassing areas that they can be. You've heard some of the examples today of some of those programs where we actually have spent a lot of time. And that's with 2 agents. Going to 1 agent really does minimize that ability to reach out and contact constituents and actually have an effect. And so I guess I say it really is hard to actually do justice to the extension program for 1 agent. It's been a lot of times it's hard to do 2 agents, which is why we've been pushing, trying to get districting to be a lot more stronger because it shares expertise across county lines and things like that. In that same context, if you go down to 1 agent, indirectly, you're also losing some opportunities for the county too, because the K-State contributes salary contributions, so they lose that and they share position. But also, each of the agents basically has resources back on K-State that they utilize for professional development or resources to draw up the county to help provide education too. So by losing another position, you just don't have that opportunity to expand and bring K-State to the community quite as much. And so it's an indirect effect, but it certainly is one that county does feel over time. And I don't know if you guys ever met a gentleman by the name of Dr. Lazarus Folkstar. He was a demographer at K-State, did a lot of research on rural communities and spent a lot of time out west, obviously. But we have a lot of rural communities up here too. And one of the things that he noticed and put in his research was that when a community starts losing their services, they really start to digress. And so I guess I kind of bring that up here. This is a service that's really an investment into your community. This is how I've always seen it. You guys get tax dollars and have very important decisions to make. And some of them aren't always easy. I understand that. But when you think about, you have built roads and bridges and driver's licenses and all those actual services. Education is one of those pure investments that you actually have for the community. So I guess I want to thank you for listening today. Thank you for members who are here today and spoke up. And I hope that you have some questions for us or what we're considering. You have my card there, my cell phone number's on that. You guys like to call me or ask other questions. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
time today.
Who all is a board member of our? So have you heard these allegations or complaints or
Not a one.
never?
I heard them verbally from Commissioner Quinn 2 weeks ago.
And
I really,
since then, I just wanted to, because I don't like the word verbally, because I don't feel like it holds up, like really. So I've gotten permission from everyone to share all of those concerns. And so Becky Piper has those. And she actually sent an email to myself and Carla Nemechek, is that how you say her name, from K-State this morning. And I'm very impressed. She's been listening and she cares just like we care about extension. And she gave an update this morning that, as you both know, we are hearing an outcry for change in extension in Atchison County. K.S.A. and Carla, I wanted you to be able to meet and also help start the discussion between us that can help with a positive change that the public can understand in the future. I've been receiving the complaints that the commissioners received. Thank you, K.S.A., for forwarding those on. And even though there are some things that can be addressed, I have asked for specific examples that can be addressed as well, so we can work to create the wanted change. I hope that by us working together, we can create a change for Atchison County that is productive and good. And I think that email says it all. That's what we all want that. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, that's
cut you
fine.
off,
That's
but
fine. I really find it hard to believe that, because I've been hearing this for years. It's been years, and what was amazing was, as I read through these complaints, I recognized them again and again. It was exactly from what I've heard before in person. So this to me isn't just taking Facebook and believing everything lock, stock, and barrel that was said on Facebook. A vendetta could be contributed to that. This is just validating exactly what I've heard before, and I really find it hard to believe that you haven't heard that as board members, because I've gotten overwhelming support from the community after our meeting, and the word got out of our cutting funding is it's overwhelming support of our decision. It doesn't mean me no great pleasure to say that, but this is stuff that I've been, like I said, hearing over and over, and people not just that aren't involved. These are people that are very involved with the fair, extension, former board members. And so as you know, I've been one that's been pushing for districting for years, and it's just come to naught. I mean, every year there's an excuse why it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I've had promises that they were meeting, and I was going to be included with meeting with potential districts. Nothing. I've never heard another word after. So it seems like it's a little bit of just lip service. A gentleman says that we don't look attractive to our neighbors. Maybe they've heard some of the same stuff. Why don't we look attractive? If we've had this good programming, if we've had all of this good relations and everything, why wouldn't they snap us up in a second to be a partner with them in their county and want part of it for themselves? So I think that explains a lot of it right there. So.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with some of the things you said, especially with why not just snap this up. I think there's a lack of understanding here on exactly the process that goes through with districting and with the variables involved, because you're dealing with different types of personalities in different counties and different set of rules. So it's not, do you look good, it's do you fit the dynamic. So I think you need to look into the process. Also, you use the word overwhelming and validate on these lists. Do you have copies of the complaints that you can distribute right now?
yes, I would love, I mean, I got permission in writing from everyone to share them. So when this is over, I can make copies for everyone and you guys can read them word for word, because again, we're representing the constituents. This is nothing no personal opinions. We're listening to the people of Atchison County and the concerns they have. And just to stand up for Eric about districting, I talked to a neighboring county to ask those same questions because I want to hear it firsthand. I want to understand, why has it been a struggle for so many years? Like, I'm new, so I have to hear it myself. I have to have the conversations. And it was a discussion, you know, the in-depth processes of an agent working with the commission, and then commissions like walk me through the whole process, and we had nothing to offer for the words. Like, so it is, we are doing our due diligence to have the conversations and understand, because of the overwhelming constructive criticism, concerns. I mean, the only bright side to this is, at the end of the day, everybody has the same goal. They want Atchison County to have a thriving extension office. Like, we all want that. I think I want that. I know Eric wants that. But some of the concerns are very eye-opening and concerning. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you
No,
finish, and then
I'm glad you said it. What county did you visit with?
I talked to folks in Donovan County, because after talking to Mrs. Piper at lunch, we talked through, and that would be, so her goal, even though she's done in December, was always to have districting. That was her goal. And we talked through the pros and cons of Meadowlark versus Donovan Brown, and how close you guys were to getting it done. And then also back when you were trying with Leavenworth and what happened there. So like, she brought me up to speed of that. And I know she had a lot going on in her personal life, just getting married and different things, and was gonna email us all together. And I just took it upon myself to reach out and ask the questions, because I knew we don't have the time to drag this on for months. I need to be educated today. That way I was able to talk to you. And I mean,
See, and that's the other thing that concerns me. You talk to this person and you've talked to people, but did you look at the process and talk to people that were involved? Because when I was on, we looked at districting with Brown and Donovan, and we put a lot of effort into making those connections, and those counties in the end rejected us. So
Again, that's back to the reasoning. Why would they reject us? If we
have
had,
you defined the reasons? Have you defined the reasons?
that's your board needs to find, you're
But
the
you're
extension
making a
boards.
decision based on an opinion, and you haven't came to the board and asked why it was rejected. Brown and Donovan rejected us, and it wasn't anything to do with what was going on.
If they didn't
the
like,
conflicts within the county.
well, you mean, they're gonna tell you the absolute truth about everything. They decided not to do it for whatever reason, but they gave you an answer that it just didn't work out. Or you don't have unequivocally proof of why they didn't accept us. And to reiterate his,
Do we have the minutes from the past
repeat
meetings?
his comment that we don't look attractive to him. Now, that statement I thought carried some weight, because if we had that program, if we had those agents, if we had those things that were a huge success, I would think that other neighboring counties would want that part of that for themselves.
Not necessarily.
Oh, they don't want that?
If I think a lot of it has to do with control, which we ran into, if I remember right, with Brown County and again with Leavenworth County. The issue is who is the controller. Essentially, it came down to we would be subservient to the county. So I mean, it bothers me that we are just making flat assumptions and we're not going back.
If there's a chance for me to talk, let me know what I do.
Sure, go ahead, Jack.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody up here today, because maybe there's some conversation long overdue. But I got to
quite frankly, he thinks that's the only one who's seen it.
I didn't hear that.
I just took some of them last week, and most of them have issues with the description. There are some that support description, but I think you gotta start providing what I use the word customer, what stakeholder wants, and not what you think they want. And I think that's part of the problem. My thought, and we only want to assist for our citizens and commissioners. That's what we're elected to do. So, I just want to thank you again on your position. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
I'll talk for a minute because I'm not even involved in extension. Okay?
Mhm.
I've never been involved in extension, except that I've judged before a long time ago. But I actually get to stand in front. I'm Karen Seberg. I get to stand in front of you all, and you're actually the county instead of me talking to the city. Like I always am talking to you. So that's exciting.
Welcome.
I'm really frustrated with this. If there are issues with staff or if there are issues with complaints on judging or that kind of thing, I think those are important. But we are a very unique county for a smaller county than Wyandotte. We're just at risk as they are. We have so many people in Atchison that are either homeless or not getting what they need, and these people are providing all those things. And I know that the Weavers have been heavily involved in 4-H and see the good of it. You don't always get judged the way you want. And what I heard from Kent was, we're not attractive because we don't have as much money as the rest of them. And we're going to cut it. I mean, I'm really worried about 4-H and kids and all of that goes on. If there are problems, Eric, I think we need a deal with them. But cutting is not going to deal with it. They need to be dealt with through this board and you. Trying to figure out what's really going on and get it done. Because districting is the way to go. You're absolutely right. But I don't think we're not attracted. I mean, if you're hearing that stuff, why didn't they go to their board? Why did you go to their board?
I did.
No, I don't know. I didn't know, but I meant before, because Eric said he's been hearing those things for a long time. Well, why didn't you go to their board and say, you got a problem?
Well, these people have said they've been speaking with board members and they get shut down.
And they
They
called the
did.
state too.
And they've went to the state, and the state has not backed them up. So,
But you need to validate those things. And all I'm saying is to throw the baby out with the bathwater before you can get this problem solved is not the way to do it. Like, that's what I'm saying. If there are problems, you need to take care of it. And I totally get it.
well,
But
see,
but
all we
cancel.
can do is fund. That's
Yeah.
all we're asked for. When we
know.
give our
Oh, yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
it hasn't been taken. We've been pushing for districting and it's just went nowhere.
But it sounds like there are reasons for that. And I don't think it's just because everybody's complaining Atchison County's a yucky fair and a yucky. They don't have good
You know what? I
roads.
want to address that. These comments, I had maybe one that addressed the COVID response of last year's fair.
Oh, no, I
These
don't-
are complaints about programming, about your election process, about changing results of when you have someone judge whatever
other counties.
clothing or whatever. If you didn't like the results of the judging, that you changed them around. There's things time and time that have nothing to do with the vendetta about the COVID policy.
Unfortunately, judging is really subjective, whether you like it or not, it is. And there are always going to be people that are not happy.
Well, but then why was it changed? I mean, if you hire a judge to judge and you don't like that,
The board
Well-
would love to see proof of it being changed.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's my point. You've got to
Well-
validate these things.
See, all this is hearsay and really, I mean, just to come out. Over the years of extension, I have seen a lot of narcissists that have came out against the board and board members and the agents. And they will get several people to say, yes, that's true. You know, we need to do something. But then when it gets down to, like you kept saying, validating, overwhelming a bit, all of a sudden, when you start to look at it and you really validate it and you hold people accountable, all that negative disappears.
Exactly.
And
I think
there's
you guys are in a
nothing there,
position
and
to
that's
do
what
that.
concerns- You're taking all this, there's no validation, you're not holding anybody accountable, and yet you're making an opinion based on these people's personal agendas.
I know a lot of these people extremely well, and they're not a narcissist. They're not out for themselves. They're not, they're good people. And when you have someone complain and they write pages and have it documented or listed out in paragraph form, that's just not a personality clash. They've got real problems with the programming and with these things.
Mr. Kirby, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you sat in our seat as county commissioners and had to represent the people, how would you validate people's, that what they bring to you? If they bring to you a concern, how would you validate that? Call them a narcissist, tell them it's like,
Well, you don't call anybody a narcissist.
I'm like,
You don't call
we got
anybody
it,
a
we
name.
got it in writing from former employees, from former students that thrived because of extension, that moved on to be super successful. I mean, parents, I mean, the list goes on. And again, this isn't, please provide funding for extension. This is novels broken down into sections of firsthand concerns of things happening that are very alarming, very, very alarming.
And see, here's where when I mentioned earlier, the premise doesn't fit the conclusion. Because the premises are something wrong with the extension process. And I think Karen posed the question of Commissioner Knoll, and Commissioner Knoll's response was, that's not our job, we just fund it.
That's all we're
So
asked
you're
for.
Okay, so what are we here for? I mean, you're funding. So to handle those complaints, they should be gathered and given to the board.
I think the whole
You'll-
public ought to see these.
I
I think
agree.
it ought to go to everybody.
I agree.
Everybody
It
ought
will
to see and
open
read
a
this.
lot of
And-
eyes, and you'll understand, because they're coming to us saying, we believe in extension. We wholeheartedly did. We grew up, we're adults with grown children who grew up through the extension process. We believe in it. We've been there our whole life. That's all we know. We want as much funding as possible, but we've tried and we've tried and we've tried and we've gotten nowhere. So we're asking you as commissioners to cut the funding, to open their eyes, to say, we have a problem in Atchison County. Like, that's what we're being asked to do. And as far as, if I could just say my part, because based on some of the information that was given today, is, first of all, I don't speak anything verbally. I do my research. I promise I talk to people. I have them send me information in writing, so it's documented. It's not my opinion. It's former employees of the extension office that have worked with our current agents. Again, everybody's given me permission to share this with you. So you guys can all read it yourselves to understand. So, and no feedback was received on social media. I put it out there. I have a county commission page where people stay up to what we're discussing. I think it's important to have transparent commissioners to let people know, hey, we're hung up on these, like, give me your opinion. That's when they came out of the woodwork with a lot of this. I do believe health topics during a pandemic are important, but again, these are concerns have stemmed for years and years and years pre-COVID. This is not complaining narcissist people. This is families from, and I was trying to figure out, like, is this just like a group over here that's really upset and maybe just like targeting them? You can look at an Atchison County map and go all over the county from my district to Eric's district to Jack's district, and people have concerns. And there was another thing that you guys had said about, oh, the same talking points. I think that's the red flag right there. Like, all of these people from all over the county have the same talking points. So that should provide validity right there.
But it hasn't. I mean, that's what I said earlier. When we confronted him, everything disappeared. Nobody knew anything about the funding, these secret grants. I mean, if you got specific banks, specific people within that bank that law enforcement can go and look at, because that is a legal issue. And you say people presented to the board, did they give a letter? Did they present in person? I mean,
Yeah, they have all letters.
To the board.
to the
No, they
board
have not
or to
done
you?
Yeah, no, your board president has all of it.
Now.
Because I had to ask permission. I'm not going to share someone's emails.
No, but
No, I'm asking.
10 years ago when it
you.
happened.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't here then.
See, nobody put anything in writing 2 years ago. It was all talk. And the same thing, well, there's this large group out there that's this sample. Well, when it came down to it, I think it was 3 or 4 people.
This
But
is
they
many
have
more than
other
that.
people than 3. I mean,
So can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people in the county have you heard from? What's the total?
So I've heard, so that's another thing that I've learned through this process is when I'm asking for feedback, I'm going to ask it for one particular place because I've gotten voicemails, I've gotten texts, I've gotten emails. So, and again, I feel like once you guys read this, it'll all make sense of why we're so like, we want good things to happen, but I think an agent change is needed. And when I say blanket statements like that from this feedback, okay, with no knowledge, going by constituents, they're asking us to go down to one agent to get rid of an agent that is an issue. I don't think it's necessarily they want one agent for the future, but from,
You may get the agents you don't want.
well,
Well,
and
that's possible. And again, that's
So-
your decision or the board's decision. Yeah, as the board member.
Well, actually, it should be the board's decision for the whole thing.
well,
Uh,
You
I
mean-
It's totally inappropriate for the commission to even suggest a 1 agent.
well, that's what we're
Well,
asked to do.
then we'll do the only thing that we can do, and that's cut. And then you'll have to make that decision.
Well,
I think that's the place where we found ourselves at. Yes.
Jack, excuse me, Eric, Jack is on the phone.
And that's not Jack, by the way.
Oh, he's not on the phone.
Oh, he's not?
Anyway,
Yes, go ahead.
Eric, it looks to me like I'm kind of a fly on the wall. New to this whole discussion a little bit. You have ahead of you a choice. There's a problem. How to solve the problem is what you're really after.
Mhm.
Will cutting funding solve the problem? Or say we could continue funding conditionally for 1 more year with more accountability to the commissioners from the extension council, and that there be a level of accountability that really assures you that the problem is being solved. Because you're really interested in solving the problem. You're really not interested in much the level of funding that goes to that, but it sounds to me like you're really interested in solving a problem.
Well, it's, if you have a program that's not producing fruit, or like in a tree, you either can pour more fertilizer to it, or you can prune. I think it's time to prune.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Figure out how to solve the
You
problem.
haven't given a number yet of how many against an agent that you received.
Well, I can let you count them when I print them out for you, because
I'm
there's,
not on the board. I think you just go to the.
oh,
I
no,
think
I'll
they
send
ought to
it,
be
I'll get it
public.
to everybody. Yeah, we can put it public.
Yeah.
Again, Mike, but I have not from anyone
address things. Now, you can believe that or not, but I have not. What I'm saying, I think what you're just saying there is that if there's a problem, you need to take it to the people that need to solve it, which is the board. And I guess my question is, if these people would have come way before now and said something to me, I certainly would be addressing that in the board immediately. And to take then a different action, which is, this is basically a human resource issue. Trying to get rid of a person, and we're taking this action to do it. In my line of business that I've been in for many years and working with human resources for years, that's not the way you do it. You go to the people that can solve it and you make it work. I'd be glad to all these people you've got there. Let's get around the table and let's let them talk. And let them expect from us if there's an issue here, and there may be, and let's get to solve it. But I'm telling you, I have never had one person walk up to me and say something to breach your, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but you've got to believe me that I've not heard this, because that would have been disturbing to me long before that.
Here's one method. All those people have a special extension board meeting. And all those people come and present their case and go from there. And I think that suggestion was good. Go one more year, have these people make a personal presentation, have them that way, put 100% on the board to solve it. You're still on your funding and you're staying outside of the issues.
That's kind of what he said exactly what I meant to say.
So that's what Becky and Joe Tolliver and I had talked, because it's coming up to fair and everybody's super busy with everything going on. But when the fair's over, I think it's very important for extension board, fair board, and anyone concerned in Atchison with us to all sit down in the same room and hash out these issues, because without talking about them, they're not going to get solved. And one thing I did learn from talking to Donovan County is their fair board and their extension board are like this, like they're collaborating and they work together and they listen to one another. And I don't know that that is necessarily the case in Atchison County. So, and as far as being the last funding, the 70th, how did you're going by population? Is that how you're ranking that? I was just wondering, because 140 was Atchison County, but Donovan was in the 130. So I was just wondering with one agent.
Well, I'm saying 70,000 would be a
One agent.
Right.
So,
and if we continue with what we've got, that cuts what we've got right 9.5, which is $4,900.
so do you believe the 140 with one agent would make us attractive for districting?
Personally, I don't think so, because with the population we have here, and with you said it, we've got a diverse population, mainly because of this city. And there's a lot of different needs that we see in the city that we don't see in rural areas. So a lot of these smaller counties that have a few thousand people don't address or have to address all these different concerns that our constituency brings to us, and that is the challenge. But I don't know. I hate to say we're solving this problem by doing it this way. And if there's a problem, let's do it correctly. And I want to get to the districting as quickly as we can. And excuses, no, I was involved in the tail end of that Leavenworth deal, and we had, in fact, commissioners here signed off on it. We had it going. We were waiting on them to. But something happened down the road that one of the commissioners made change his mind, and it all fell apart. And I know that for a fact. And so it's things like that that can't all be laid on our doorstep, because we have been very active. We were looking at, the next step was, let's look at Donovan, because we were looking to try to give us Leavenworth and then to bring Donovan in too, was our plan originally. So we were being proactive. And if it was a personnel issue thing, I wish somebody in all that thing would have said something to me. And I'm telling you, I don't hear this. Now, I know I'm not a native here. I've been here a number of years, but people maybe don't, but my phone number's listed, and I'd be glad to talk to anybody because we're the people that need to solve this. And we've got to hear it and we've got to sit down and discuss it before anything's going to happen. Just going down this road of reducing the budget and reducing the agent is a really roundabout way of trying to solve the problem. And I understand why you're saying that, and that's what they're saying. But we should have said, well, let's sit down with those people first and talk about this before we make that decision. It would be my. So I think I'm not speaking necessarily for all the of the board members, but I think I am to the degree that we're all as concerned as you guys are about the quality of service and the quality of education that we need to continue to invest in this community because there's great opportunities here in this community. I moved here from North Carolina, so I like this county, and so I'm interested, and I think everybody else is too.
May I ask why? You said you've been hearing these for a number of years.
Mhm.
Why have you not brought them to the board to address, or have you at some point in time? Because
I've
been on
always,
for about 2.5 years, and
I've always
not
been
heard that.
told that they addressed the board or board members, put it that way, not, I don't think anybody said they went to a board meeting, just, but they've addressed board members at various times and never anything ever done about it.
How many of
And
the
the
board
board-
members here have been addressed? The problem.
Jack did attend the board meeting with us last year when we were.
Can I say something?
Sure.
For those that don't know me, Commissioner Quinn, Commissioner Knoll, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Kristen Webb. I am involved in a variety of activities with 4-H. My children, I have 3 sons enrolled in 4-H, and I have a daughter enrolled in a Clover Buds program. I am also the secretary for the Fair Board, and I am not a product of 4-H. I was never in 4-H as a youth. So when I decided to sign my children up for 4-H, it was because of jealousy. Jealousy as a child that I wasn't involved in 4-H and I wanted to be. But that was not what my family had planned for me, and that's okay. But I wanted to provide that opportunity for my children. When I broached the subject for which club to join, what projects my kids should be in, or whatever, not very good communication from the extension agents. I was told, well, here's the list of clubs, figure it out. Okay. So then my husband loves shooting, shotguns, rifles, everything. So we tried to get a shooting sports program going in Atchison County for the second time. And again, it has failed because of lack of support. Now, granted, I will be the first to tell you that maybe we should have questioned the clubs better to see which they would be more interested in. My husband wanted to do shotguns because that's what he's comfortable with. If you ask the youth of Atchison County, they want archery. Well, shooting sports is a special thing for 4-H, and you have to go to Rock Springs for specialized training, and he got specialized in shotgun, not archery. That program has failed again. As a member of the Fair Board, we have tried to do different things. We provide surveys for everybody in Atchison County to provide feedback for what they want to see for the fair. So the first year I was involved, we changed some things up. We had all of the judging in one week. Evening shows were in the evening so that parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever could come. There was very positive feedback with that. The next year, the majority of those things changed. Not because Fair Board wanted that, but because it could not be worked with extension agents. You ask, why don't these people come to extension board with their concerns? Because we don't know who is on extension board. I have asked multiple times, who is on extension board? Who is a council member of the PDC? and I get nothing. Last year was the very first time I got anything. And it was just because we were in a COVID year and I was trying to get answers for our families. Because nobody knew what was going on with the fair. Were we having a live fair? Were we having a virtual fair? Whatever. But that was the first time I had ever gotten any information as to who is a council member and who is on extension board. So then I did go to an extension board meeting. And I listened and I said some things regarding the scheduling of the fair for last year. How we wanted to be able to provide a live show for the animals to come and go. And it was done. And I think we worked together on that. Well, I think extension has a great role in Atchison County. I think they have good things they can provide. Don't think that you're going to get there without cutting the funding. Please tell me, why would we increase the funding? What does increasing the funding do? Because I think their budget last year was 130, 140. Now they're asking for 182. What does increasing the funding do? Because they still don't have an office professional. They can't keep one. And I think there has been communication stating those working conditions. And as far as working in that building, I think maybe some hoarding needs cleaned out. And potentially that building could be improved, but why would you improve a building if you can't improve the process?
Okay.
And I have emailed Dr. Chris Olmsted. I have emails that I have emailed him, I have emailed Wade Weber, and I have emailed Pam Van Horn. So it's been done. It's just, well, your extension board needs to do something. Well, I would love to talk with the extension board, but until now, I haven't known who's on it. So how do you talk to somebody if you don't know who they are?
I mean, you weren't provided that information at
No.
the office.
No, I was
These are the
not.
kinds of things we need to know.
How do I tell you if I don't know who you
I understand
are?
that, you know now.
Either go on Google.
Yeah, there is, it all is written down. We've got a whole chart that shows who is who. You didn't know that. Yeah, I understand that. So that's.
I have researched, I have looked, and I have not been able to find it. You know, I'm sorry, but I don't have hours and hours to go search for that information. I have 5 kids, a full-time job.
Sure. This is what we need to do. We need to sit and have people like you and talk. Get it all out.
And Kristen, I was at that meeting that you were at, and I mean, first, thanks for coming, because it was during mass steps, business, all that, and, but, yeah, I wasn't aware that you didn't know who the board was. And obviously, I'm with Larry here. That obviously needs to be put out, that information, but unless we know about it, we might go to your place to get stuff done. I mean, that's unfortunate. We obviously need to communicate better.
I think that's power struggle. If they don't know, we can't tell.
I don't really think so. Did you ask, Kirsten, did you ask at the meeting you did for a list of the board?
I wrote them down, but I don't have,
Contact information.
they were separate issues, okay? That I was only there to discuss the fair during COVID. And honestly, I didn't feel I would get anywhere with the extension board. So,
I know as board members, that we have a list from every year, and I haven't, back as long as I've been involved.
and how long have you been on the board?
I think about 3 years.
So I thought that extension board members could only hold their position for 2 years. And PDC members get pulled for 4 years with the 1 year break.
I think that's not the case.
So what is the truth?
PDC members are elected to a 2-year term, and they can serve 2-year terms. From the council, there are 9 members that are elected to the board, and they're elected annually.
And how long do they get to serve that term? Just
It's
1
a
year?
1 year, they're elected every year, they've got to go. Or they can be reelected for, you can serve a total of 4 years.
How,
And that's the other thing I said earlier, we would love to have more people want to be on the board, so have them come and talk to us. 'Cause, we would love to have a larger ballot of people than what we usually get. And we do reach out to people. A lot of people just simply,
who
Casey,
do you
did you have
reach
something
out
else?
to?
Well, I'm gonna let them finish.
well, it's just suggestions of people in the community.
Where do you get those suggestions?
Well, people that we hear or know in the past have been involved with things. Past, I mean, it's just, it's not quote our friends, as I think has been charged. And I certainly don't, I don't know a lot of the people in the area, so in that respect. But we do try to encourage people. I set out at health program 1 year in school. And I talked to a lot of people. I encourage them, go over here and vote. And I encourage we would love to have more people involved. I didn't know all these people, but I had to drag them to the ballot box and vote.
See, and I think that's a lack of communication too, because I've gone to those, not very often, but I have gone to those, but you're talking about the health fairs at the
Mhm.
elementary school.
Mhm.
And I've never known that extension was there for that purpose.
Well, it wasn't for that purpose only. I went as a board member to try to encourage more people to understand that what we are all about. So I'm not there every year because I do a lot of traveling in my work and I'm not involved all the time, but I was there for that specific reason. But it wasn't for that specific reason. It was there, we were there for other areas to talk about our services that we offer. But I said, I'm going to come out and there'll be a lot of people there to give me an opportunity to encourage them to get involved or to at least vote this time around.
I think we're kind of getting off in the weeds a little bit here. I think we need to direct
Yeah.
this more to, did you have a?
Well, I
question?
just had a question. So if someone's suggested on the PDC, do you just put them on the ballot for elections, or? I'm just wondering, because I'm on the PDC committee and I didn't even know it. So I'm listed as community development. And so someone had sent that to me. And so I reached out to several of these folks just to ask them what their role is, and I haven't heard back from them. So I didn't know if they were like me, like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I didn't know I was part of it, or how that.
Commissioner Quinn, I want to clarify one thing and apologize. I did not mean that you've gotten the complaints verbally. I meant that I heard them verbally from you.
No, you're fine. I just know for people watching, I have to clarify things. And if you guys have any feedback for us on how we can do better, I mean, honestly, we're sitting in a tough spot and we're trying to represent the county in the best way possible. And it's luckily, usually this has been the first experience. A lot of times people come to you with their thoughts, but they don't want themselves exposed. They just want to be in your ear and say, okay, go do this. Luckily, all of these people, and I counted my emails, there's 11 emails. I have some voicemails and some text messages. And I'll go back through my folder because I'm sure I missed some, but just to give you those numbers, but we're just trying to relay, and luckily all these people are willing to have their name out there so we can give you copies to read through all of this because we're representing them. Yes.
Kaylee, you said there was somebody online or,
Yeah, Jennifer Maxwell would like to speak.
okay.
If you're available for her.
Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
So thank you for allowing me to speak. So first of all, I want to point out this is not a vendetta. There is several of us that believe in extension for our county, and it is a vital resource. It is a vital program, but the programs are not there. I was involved in 4-H as a parent, as a club leader, as a project leader on the 4-H council, and there are many issues. I personally went to the extension board. There are 2 of those members in the room today that I sent stuff to, and they did nothing. I went to Diane Mack at the state level. Again, nothing. I went above her. I do not recall that gentleman's name. I haven't found it in my email. I will. Absolutely nothing was done. I feel for Kristen and what she said. I went through what she is currently going through. It took me months to get out of the current agents who was on the extension board. When we figured that out, there was a group of us that would attend meetings on a regular basis, trying to understand the process and trying to make the 4-H program better. Volunteers have been ran off over the years. I guarantee you they will come back if changes are made. The extension board currently, maybe you guys can do something, I don't know, but in the past, nothing has been done. I support the cuts of the funding to try to force the action of something to happen. We were forced as 4-H people to go outside of the county for programming, and it's alarming when you hear these other counties tell you, please don't tell your current agents because we will then hear about it. So what does that tell you about these other places? We did it secretly. We did it at K-State. We did it all over the place to get our kids the education they needed for their programs. Every time we ran into obstacles, I know some of the current office professionals in the past, it's horrible working conditions. I know one of them that has been put in writing. I have not seen it. I was just told that she submitted something. Something has to be done, and it needs to be done now to save extension in our community, save the 4-H program, and everything else that we can do going forward. I'm not going to go on, but I stand behind my letter that I wrote. You all can read it. If you want to contact me, you are more than willing to contact me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Did you have something?
I was just going to go back because it's Fair Week, and for the sake of the kids, I want to just clarify a point. In 4-H, we do what is consultation judging because we want 4-Hers to know life skills and to know about the project at that moment. So ribbon placing are between the judge and the 4-Her at that moment in time. And so the ribbons are awarded. The exception, I'm going back here in a few minutes, our style review, that is not announced until the public review, but superintendent do that, judges do that. So to say that ribbons are being changed, it's just not the 4-H process of doing it. We value that learning experience, and if at that moment they will say, I'm giving you a blue ribbon and here are the reasons, or red ribbon. And so I just want to make us aware as we go into Fair Week that for kids, 4-H is the learning experience, and that ribbon is an evaluation at that moment in time.
Diane, I have a question. Is that your white car that sits behind the extension office at Effingham? And, you know, and several years ago, the commission asked you to fix the tires and get it moved, but it's always parked in the same spot.
I realize that. So that's probably a personal thing I will take.
But is that your only car?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, I only see you drive the extension van, so that's the only thing.
Probably just why I'm doing probably extension work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I kept a car there because when my mother was sick, I wanted to be able to.
Well, you can, you know, they mow around it, but the weeds are this tall fur around the car. So that looks unseemly. So thank you. Other questions, observations?
A point on the districting concept. As you all know, there's always the timings. Back in 2014, when Atchison County Commissioners signed agreements with the idea they could go to Leavenworth County, it was Leavenworth County, the commissioners, they kind of backed off. So as we're talking districting, really a help from commissioners, speaking with other commissioners, would be beneficial in that. Well, I mean, and there's no joke about it, as far as funding is part of that puzzle. It gets looked at in a districting concept, and they're again, as the board is continuing to look at districting, and we know our options are neighboring counties or the district. It gets to be that time as far as is a Brown, Donovan County ready? Well, apparently last year they were not. Leavenworth County, we've been there twice, and both times it's probably been the commissioners that have resisted, I would say, for their reasons. And I don't know, Eric, if they would really say what those resistance are, other than one time I think it was printed that they would have 4 representatives and Atchison County would potentially have 4 representatives, and they didn't think that was quite fair or equitable. And that's just how the law is. So on the districting concept, yes, 2012, I think would be what we were documenting as far as when we started with Leavenworth County, and we've been to Leavenworth County, and it was more commissioner input. Not that boards, extension boards aren't trying, but it's probably the commissioners, just resistance is what my opinion is.
Well, as I was brought on to be a commissioner in 2015, and that is about the time that that deal fell through. And at that time, I was told that the deal was going through, but Leavenworth County was wanting, and this is where I'm kind of unclear, was it they had a problem with the mill levy, and that they were going to pay, since their valuation is so much higher, they wanted a cap, and that language had to, you were to provide them with the language or go to the state level, and they kept asking you for that, and it was never provided. And so that's when they finally said, well, if we're not getting what we're asking at this point, that's when they cut ties. So that's what was going on at that time when I stepped in to be a commissioner. So
So they said, I don't know, they might thought we specifically put that in there for that reason. We didn't have a problem with that at all. But you're saying they didn't get that on.
they never got the information that they were requesting, or
And wouldn't that have come from the commissioners, to Leavenworth commissioner?
You know, the papers that were being signed, you know, they worked together on that, but we put that in before our own commissioners signed. I know that now. I don't know why.
at the time, I don't think our commissioners knew what happened. They just knew that it was just moot. It just stopped happening. And that's what eventually filtered from Leavenworth commissioners to my predecessors. And that's what I was told. So,
They signed.
Atchison County
Atchison
Commission
County
Huh?
signed the agreement.
Atchison County signed the agreement.
yeah, it was Leavenworth County that had the problem and wasn't getting the information that they wanted. They're the ones that stopped, didn't sign.
Because I know. I
They
remember-
stopped. They're the ones that
we
stopped.
agreed, yes, we have no problem with putting a cap on it.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
It was the Leavenworth County commissioners that ultimately did not sign that because they didn't get the information or whatever it was that they were asking for.
That's
Not what the Leavenworth Extension was. I don't know.
Anyway,
I have to call.
did you have something
I
more?
have one last question. You're talking about districting, and I think that's a great thing. I would be interested to know the 4-H enrollment data and number of clubs in these surrounding counties like Brown, Donovan, Leavenworth, whomever you're considering districting with, and Atchison. I know that 4-H enrollment as a whole has decreased. Kids are just getting stretched thin. They've got lots of different things they want to go to and do. And so 4-H is, I think, becoming less and less. But I know that Atchison County has been struggling with enrollment, and we've lost 2 clubs in the last 2 years. So I would just be interesting for like the last 10 years to get that enrollment data, to see that trend, to see if it's going up, down, stable, what it's doing.
It's down dramatically from,
For all counties, or?
I'm talking about Atchison County.
Yeah, I just think it would be interesting to see what these neighboring counties with only 1 agent are doing. I follow Brown County's Facebook page for extension quite a bit, and he is doing lots of good programming. And I see lots of big kids involved with the things he's doing. So I would just wonder what their enrollment information is.
Yeah, that'd be a good avenue to look at. So, well,
Where are your board meetings held at
Last year we've been on Zoom, of course.
this
Kneecap,
year?
Becky Parsons, making that arrangement to meet at the Kneecap. Sometimes we've met at the Atchison Library.
Oh, so it varies each time? And when are the meetings?
Try to have that first Tuesday of the month.
First Tuesday, okay.
And boards have options as far as. In the course of the year, the board can make a decision like a very fair. If that's the time, they might roll off of that. And that's the case this year.
what, like 7 PM or?
Oh.
Usually about
Last time we
5:45.
met a little bit earlier. But I mean,
So there is no set time or place or,
at the beginning of the year, the board tries to decide which is a good night, which is a challenging for.
so
busy
somebody,
people.
so if
First
somebody
Tuesday
wants
of-
to attend one, how do they look that up? How do they find it?
The first Tuesday of the month.
Usually, but I mean, people aren't gonna go to a board
Call
member,
anybody on the
board
board.
meeting and not be a board meeting there and want to come back the next time. I mean, most things have to be publicized. Is it on a website? How does somebody access? Again, it's again,
I would hope that they call and we could tell them and inform that over the board too. But
so they're gonna have to call
Can't
before
call
there's a
every month.
board meeting scheduled or?
Well, the extension office would be like-
I'm proving point that doesn't work.
Well, I mean, it's eerily similar to what she
I
was
mean, the
saying earlier.
public would get on us if we didn't have a standing open meeting, time,
It needs
place,
to
date.
Be publicized. It needs to be, have a place. If you, do you have a Facebook page? Something there, it needs to be put out there. It sounds very vague to me. Well, we usually do it here and we're not even for sure what time. I mean, it's kind of
Is there a
proving the
con-
point.
Is there a conference room in the extension office in Effingham you could do it every time?
Us.
Have you been out there? Did you not there? I need to go out to these.
I haven't been in the back, but the girl that worked there said there was a conference room in the back. I don't know.
that's.
I haven't been behind the
that's
counter.
transition to storage.
You can't
Oh.
hardly get behind the counter.
That's transition to storage.
Has the board been out to the extension
Which-
office at Effingham lately?
And my wife, yes.
No, I mean, within the last couple of years or?
I understand.
Yeah, I go there regularly.
I'm not-
It's not owned by the county, it's rented, so you might want to go to the rentor and ask him why he doesn't keep it up.
Because the floor is so heavy, he can't jack it up with you got stacks of papers and files this tall.
I'd rather that's an issue too. I do agree.
I mean, it's described as hoarders, it looks like hoarders are living there. And it's
That was one.
abominable.
That was one of the things for when I was talking to the folks in Doniphan is the fact, like, I think Atchison needs to use 2022 as a kind of rebirth year, like restructuring and building the relationships internally. Cause I would like us to set up to where people look at us and say, I want a district with Atchison County. Like, we shouldn't have to like go out and beg people or ask them like, what do we have to do to be able to district? Like, people look at us and say, we need to district with them because they have they have it going on over there. Their numbers are increasing. Things are looking great. Look at all their involvement and their volunteers. And I think with action and some discussions, all of us together, like we're talking about, I think we're going to get there. I really believe that.
And what are you going to rent and pay salary on $80,000?
Well, based on the numbers we had, so if services operating is 20 to 37 is what they had said. So that leaves 53 for an agent. I don't know what the salaries are of your agents, but salaries and benefits. Do you make more than 53,000? I don't know. Like,
I just don't think.
do you guys have
Rent a decent building for 20 or 30,000 a year.
do you, well, paying 300 now, right?
300 a month.
Yeah.
That's the rent.
I mean, to me, if I rented a place, I would make sure it was up to par even. I mean, the floor joists don't. What else was I gonna ask you guys? Trying to remember. It was something.
I think we're gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon, so. Any last comments?
I would just say, and I don't even know what your name is, sir, but, and what Carol indicated, that would be my hope, that you would give us, I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of discussion, but, and we never have received, I have never received any of these complaints, because I assure you, in the time I've been on the board, there have been issues, not necessarily with the extension people, but issues that have come up and we've addressed them. So again, it's hard to address something that you do not have. It's like you folks reading those things, but hey, I mean, I haven't seen it.
Yep.
So I feel like there has been good communication here, but I do feel like I would hope we could have one more year of the 140 funding so that we can really work on getting our ducks in a row and do what needs to be done. I just would like to see that happen. You know, you've been a commissioner for 6 years and you've been a commissioner for 6 months. Okay, I've been a taxpayer for over 50 years. And I'm just saying, I don't mind my tax money and I don't like to pay taxes. But I don't mind it going to some of the extension because it's an agricultural county. We have my kids back 20 years ago were in 4-H. And it wasn't all a green team back then either. There was some disputes there with, I won't get into personalities. It really had nothing to do with the extension board at the time. But I'm just saying, stuff like that happens. And for every negative you've had up there in an email, I will bet you could get 20 kids, parents that would say it's a worthwhile program. What they've done is good. It gave my children an opportunity to learn things we would have never taught. But unfortunately, in human nature is not tough. Hey, you did a great job. We tend to be on the negative side. So that's all. I appreciate the time you give us. I know you have a hard job to do. You are stewards to a lot of money in this county. I got it. But I also know that this is a program that certainly is worth salvaging. And I just, any to increase funding is going backwards. It's not going forward. And I just think we need to have time to shore up some of the concerns that have been addressed here. And that will take us where we need to go as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay. Quickly.
All right, I didn't introduce myself, and she said she didn't know. I'm Jim Cormode. I live in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Everyone knows me because I'm an election.
Yeah, I've talked with you before.
But I wanted to know, and for K.S.A, I was last involved in Atchison County 4-H in 1960 when I was president of the county 4-H council. Indirectly involved in 1964 when the county sent me to an exchange program with German farmers. Other than that, I've been an assistant superintendent at the fair in the last 5 years. So I really am kind of a fly on the wall.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming.
And as I flip through these comments, there was one lady that is nervous to share because she likes the agents as people, but she has concerns about them. So I would just ask you to have Becky Parsons. Everybody I got permission to share feedback with is Becky Piper has it. And so she can forward to your board for you guys to review the feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You've kicked the ball down the road.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, old or unfinished business before the board.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Hearing none, county councilor updates. Do you have anything on the neighborhood revitalization? I think we discussed that this morning. I went to a meeting at Capioma and
Hey,
Pat went
Hey,
to
thanks, Ray.
Center,
thank you.
and they both agreed to join at the normal rate.
They voted for, they've indicated they will participate. We still got 3 townships that were, 3 townships. They all met yesterday, so I haven't checked emails today, so.
That's Shannon, Grasshopper, and Mount Pleasant. Okay. I'm gonna write that down. So. Okay. Any other updates, Pat?
I don't think anything else.
Any need for an executive session? With that, if there's no other business at hand, do I hear a mission?
You need to sign that. Purchase
Oh, yeah.
order.
Okay.
The
Time out.
one For Stacy.
Yes. Okay.
Don't forget a public comment.
Oh,
Right.
was there, well, there's, everyone left the room, but I didn't look on the computer. So I don't see
Ask if there's anyone else on there.
who was, oh, that was Jennifer. So I don't see any.
I don't know, there's just a couple of them.
So,
It's to sign. We're on yet.
no, I know, but what do we, like from that discussion? Where are you two at?
I haven't changed my mind.
Oh, thank you. There you go.
That's your copy. Yes.
Okay. Is that,
I don't think he heard you ask that question. I don't think Jack heard you.
Can you reiterate it to him?
Hey, Jack, did you hear Casey's question about where your stance was on the discussion that was just held?
he must not be on anymore. Hasn't changed my mind at all.
Jack, can you hear me?
So we want to go ahead and,
I don't think that you can hear me.
okay.
So I was just wondering, because I haven't been part of a,
I'm sorry, guys, I have you on. Hear my background noise. Yeah, I think I saw it more than one ago. I was a little disappointed they didn't put in some goals and taxes they were accomplished. 100%. I'm a little disappointed with that. But, I didn't hear anything that would change my mind.
Hear anything that changed his mind.
I was a little disappointed that there weren't more of these committee members when there's 24 of them, but then if they're like me and didn't know they're on it, maybe that's why they didn't. I was wondering if you guys could explain to me, like on the budget process, so we're to the end, basically. If, are we allowed to alter the budget next year? So here's the deal. Here's where my brain's at, right? As far as a budget for extension and the children and the programming, I don't want to increase the budget from what we've decided until we see results. However, I didn't know if they, because we're not even to 2022 yet in an entire year, like, do we ever have the ability to amend that?
That's pretty, it's,
It wouldn't happen till 2023,
yeah, we would
but we could,
revisit it in a year and,
You can do a budget amendment provided you have available funds.
okay,
But you won't have another chance after you submit the budget to levy more tax.
okay.
So
But don't, based on what we heard to, sorry, go ahead, Jack. Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you. She said, go ahead.
Okay, so the reality is, something that comes up every year, it makes a difference to our citizens. It's not a lot you can do, it's always like, make it happen. Let's stick out. I didn't find something else. We were expected on that. Are you suggesting that we will start showing the things that they used to for, or was it for?
I didn't know if we had authority to do, say if you did the. Sorry, I'm
She's
just.
doing some figuring. Hang on.
88. I'm just saying, like, if we stayed firm with our 88 to force change, so to speak, and that's just our part, because the board has to do their part in order to move us all in the right directions for Atchison County based on the feedback we've received. Is there a way to leave? Like, can we make agreements with them saying, we're going to give you what we agreed upon until we see X, Y, and Z, or not? We don't have that authority.
I think you would have to.
I'm just-
I wouldn't be willing to do that anyway. I
Okay.
mean, I think I think maybe it's being overthought a little bit.
That's what I'm good at, Eric.
So, well, I mean, that's what I do too. So,
He's trying to say something.
all right, Jack.
Well, I think we can come to, we need a couple of supports for this program. Would you help us with it? That's one conversation. The person said, if you behave really well, I think that's a good person to talk to. So, if they come to us and do something, but not as part of the agreement. I think they should try to figure out how to put it. Because they have, and I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. That's technology. Okay. Okay, and I see no other public comment, so do I hear a motion to adjourn at 2:58?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Quinn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Pass 3-0. We are adjourned.